always be with you. You'll
Hello and welcome to Friday Night with Animal World Live. We're very excited to have Tristan and Ali from Wandering Through talking to me, your host, Brent Leo-smith, about all the wonderful African countries that they have traveled to and would like to possibly take you on a safari to one day. Lion's chasing the dog. Hello, let's get some hellos on the way. Hello, Dov, Joy, Jordan, Annie, Linda, Rosalind, Pam, different Linda, Dennis, Kevin, Steve, Angie, Janet, Becky, TJS, Widget, Betty, B, Kenya, Penguin, Sketchcat, Sinak, Andrea, Fiona, Bonnie, Noel, Vicky, Animal Tested Love Approved, Chef Lady, Barbara, H Fox, Octo, Girly, Wheelie Girl, Joanne Woodless, Peter Panda, Shamsung, Amber, Redstone Prime. So many of you, great to have you all there. And if I didn't get to you, hopefully you'll get a question through and I'll get to say hi properly. But again, it is Friday night here in the bustling bush metropolis of Hoedspruit, and the lions of Pridelands were just roaring. And hopefully they're going to be around for the safari tomorrow. Very, very exciting. Now, of course, before we delve and invite our guests out to sit next to me so I can embarrass them as much as possible, we're going to go have a look at what's been on the bush cams, the live bush cams over the last little while. And now remember, Vim and Zander won't let me see what's there. So I watch it for the first time with you. So let's get into it. What is our first clip tonight, Vim? Aha, it's a squirrel. Oh, and some francolins. Now this is of course just behind me at the critter cam, and we get lots of wonderful little critters visiting, and the squirrel, Shoa's enemy, seems to be visiting quite frequently. And we do have quite a lot of squirrels around here. Whoop, off we go. And we're going to get surprised by something else. No, that is what we've got today. And of course I did forget to mention, I apologize profusely, but on camera this evening is the one and only Brian Joubert. And very excited to have Brian as part of the team. So he is on camera, and he'll be on camera with me tomorrow afternoon for the private safari as well. Now, squirrel cuteness exactly, Dov. Love squirrels. Had one that lived with me as a child, yes. Quite a few of us have had to raise squirrels out here. Fortunately, touch wood, we haven't had to raise any ourselves for a while. They can be quite aggressive, believe it or not, our little squirrels, and they tend to bite members of the same sex. Now, okay, what we got next, Vim? Oh, how exciting! This is right here in the garden. The black-backed jackals, we're actually starting to hear them call as well. This is very, very cool, and that is literally not even 10 feet behind me where Critter Cam is. So it's lovely to see that the jackal population is returning to what it once was, because thank you, Kalena. What happened is about 4.5 years ago there was a massive rabies outbreak, and the jackals and wild dogs in particular got really badly hit. So it's really exciting, and I've noticed as with the jackals we've been releasing into the Rietspruit, I think there's over 20 jackals released so far. The population in the area seems to be raising again and spreading. The nice thing about those jackals is they have been vaccinated, so very, very cool to see them all the way out. Oh, thank you, Mary. Mac Rambo, not a fox, a black-backed jackal. And so it is related to a fox. It is a canid, or a dog. And but no, only place you get foxes in Africa, or red foxes, is right on the north in Morocco, and I think possibly into Egypt, and in that area, because there used to be a land bridge between Africa and the Middle East, and foxes would have come across, and that's why you also get red deer in Africa, and also species of sheep up there. They would have come through across that land bridge. Depending on the land bridge, could be as long as 5-6 million years ago. The most recent land bridge between Africa and Asia, though, where a lot of these species would have come across, was about 50 to 60,000 years ago. Okay, now, Vim, what do we got next? Oh, the critter cam is pumping at the moment. Now, of course, it is getting dry, so there's limited water sources around. That is a baby kudu, for those who are not sure. And isn't that awesome? That is a baby kudu, and he's going to stand in the water. Dop, dop, and I can't see Mom, I'm sure, is around somewhere. I think I saw her eyes in the background, but she obviously wasn't too thirsty. So, very, very cool. Sorry, am I missing questions? Oh, thank you, Vicky. Shamsung, jackals and wolves really are similar. Do they share species? Well, they're from the same family. They are canids, and they're both canis. And so a jackal is also quite closely related, as closely related as a sort of African canid can be to a dog. And believe it or not, there are actually naturally occurring wolves in Africa. Grey wolves, again, in Egypt and in Morocco, that would have come across that land bridge about 50,000 years ago, 50 or 100,000 years ago. There's been a couple of land bridges with the ocean levels changing between Africa and the Middle East. Now, interestingly enough, now I've lost my train of thought there for a second. Jackals, wolves, whatnot. Aha, yes. But of course, most of the canis species are quite closely related. And of course, wolf is the most closely related to the domestic dog. But the jackals are a little bit more distant related. And of course, we have two species in southern Africa, side-striped and black-backed. And in East Africa, you get the golden jackal, which then also occurs all the way up into Egypt, into the Nile Valley. And the wolves that have been seen in that area that have, from genetic testing, have been proven to be grey wolves, were often thought to be sort of a strange race of golden jackal. Now, you do get golden jackal on the Maasai steppe and the Mara. Vim, what else do we have? Oh, it is really the Critter Cam show tonight. Lovely big male Inyala, and he's doing something quite interesting there. And that means he's trying to get as much mud as possible onto his horns. Now, he's doing that so he can look very impressive and scary to the other male Inyala, in case he wants to woo a lady Inyala. But you can see he's getting some decent mud on his horns and on his face. Now, in his mind, he's going to look bigger, stronger, and scarier. Big, lovely Inyala bull. Okay, so, isn't that incredible? Now, quite a lot of the different species will do it, but it is quite prominent in the Traphalagans, so Inyala, Kudu, Bushbuck, but also you'll find wildebeest do it, and hartebeest, and I've even seen impala do it on occasion, but not very often. I almost think that impala are just doing it when they got a bit of an itch somewhere. They don't seem to do it as frequently as your spiral-horned antelope. Actually, even eland do it from time to time. War paint for Inyala, exactly. Liz? A wheelie girl, actually not that uncommon. You do see it quite often through the spiral-horned antelope species, as well as wildebeest and the hartebeest species all like to put war paint on to make themselves look more impressive to the females and more dangerous to the other males. Okay, Vim, do we have some more? It's our friend, the little genet. Now, those of you who follow on our social media, and it is the small spotted genet, will notice that the one, it was 3 mornings ago, we had the genet in the kitchen, in the wine rack to be more specific, which obviously made Hloa go absolutely nuts, but we managed to safely release the genet just behind me.
We can do a little clip for them tomorrow morning.
Zander says he'll have a little clip. I got Zander to film the removal of the genet, so we will be putting out a little clip on social media of the release of the genet. So that is a little small spotted genet. Now, if those of you remember correctly, how to tell the difference between a small spotted and large spotted genet, you need to look carefully at the tip of the tail. So white tip to the tail is small spotted, dark tip to the tail is large spotted. Okay, what do we got next, VMP? Ah, the African civet. Oh, that is lovely. Thank you for anal pasting at our pan. Now, of course, anal pasting in civets is quite important. It demarks territory, can also let them know if they are ready for mating, etc., etc. So, and also they use it is in defense. So if they are attacked by a lion or a leopard or whatnot, one of their forms of defense is to actually spray quite a noxious substance out of their anal glands. And yeah, so that's what that civet was just marking its territory. And I'm pretty sure it's a very similar civet, or not the similar civet, the same civet that pops past quite regularly. There we go. And sniff, 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 sniff. Ah, different time. This time just coming for a drink. Now I'm trying to see, is that a male or female? The first one looked like a male. Very, very nice. There we go. That was absolutely wonderful. So it's very cool having these live cameras nice and low to the ground and in different areas and also up in the tree. We do catch some incredible behavior and stuff like that you often wouldn't see, particularly with genets and civets that can be quite skittish at night. Yes, Shamsung, you're very correct. Lots and lots of animals anal paste. Quite a few different species. Sketch cats, my Jack Russell caught a rat in my garden. That's very good. That's what they're there for. Chloe has removed us of a mouse or two over the last while as well. And it sounds like we've got more of them from Criticam. 2 more to go. Wow, this is exciting. Oh, one of my favorites indeed. And Vim's banded mongoose. Very cool that they've come to visit. They haven't visited us for quite a long time. We do get the dwarf mongoose quite regularly, but banded mongoose. And speaking of anal pasting, another species that anal pastes quite regularly. I was lucky enough, we've had them as rescues, as pets while growing up. And Lord Montague, our last one, anyone new who came into the house, he decided they had to anal paste on their feet, which when we had city folk visiting generally caused much dancing, which then got Lord Montague quite excited, and sometimes he bit them, which was not so good when you had visitors. Okay, the last one before we get our guests to come join. And what have we got? Oh, a black-headed oriole. How cool is that? Now, we don't get too many birds, but there we go, a black-headed oriole. Probably more interested in chasing hohos. Now, for those of you who don't know, hohos is a nice South Africanism or colloquialism for nunus or doodoo, which is, of course, bugs and insects, a general call. So, very, very cool. Now, I think it's time that we demand our guests march out and come say hello. So, I don't think they're listening. Oh, here they come. But while we wait for them to march out into the open and come have a look, we've got an update from one of our and your favorite cameras, the Lapalala Live Dog Den. Welcome back, and of course, isn't that wonderful to catch up with the Lapalala dogs? They do so much all the time. It's actually quite difficult to choose a little highlight reel from what they've been up to. But as you can see, the puppies are starting to wander a little bit further from the den. But without further ado, hello, Ali.
Hi, Brenty.
Hello, Tristan in the smoke.
How are you?
Tristan's practicing being a smoked trout.
Yes, I am. Now I know what a smoked trout feels like, Brenty. It's been quite something.
Well.
My eyes are watering. I'm not crying. I'm happy. I'm legitimately being smoked out, but it'll go away now. So
Yes, we're trying to get the fire going a bit more in the meantime while we're watching the wild dog clip, but it's taking its time. So wonderful to have you here.
Nice to be here, Brenty. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to have our dear friends from Wandering Thru here, and we're going to be chatting about favorite safari destinations and
Where to start?
I know, and especially now while people are unable to travel, you can start planning, start saving. It's a good time to think about it, and of course we've got a couple of experts here to chat to.
I think Ali's the expert, Brenty. You and I
we just do what she tells us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Just do what she says.
I like this fellow. I'll remind you both of this one day. It'll
Only
come
on camera.
Yes, only on camera.
Yes,
Oh,
no, of course.
God.
And if you do want to book a private safari with any of us, email Ali.
Ali
Don't
at
email
wanderingthru.com.
Don't email Tristan and Brent. They're bad at replying to
yeah.
emails.
Yes,
It's one of those things, boys and emails. What happens?
I have
don't
no
know.
idea, to be honest with
But
you.
in all seriousness, as you were saying, Brenty, it's a little bit tricky now. Obviously, with the situation and everything that's been going on, things are still up in the air. Nobody really knows what to do or when to plan. But if anything, 2021 is going to be packed in many places because thankfully, and we've had it with the people that have booked with us, a lot of people have decided to carry on supporting Africa and tour operators by postponing when possible rather than cancelling. So pretty much everything we had for this year is now happening in 2021, plus what was already happening in 2021. So,
No, it's going to be a busy year next year, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be very busy.
Tristan,
That's good.
do you want to come and sit here so that
No.
you?
You
can
I
move.
know this is
You can
tragic,
move
but-
closer. Come, move closer, everyone.
Yes, this smoke is kicking my backside.
There we go. And watch, it's now going to come here.
No.
So what we're going to do, I think, here
We all good, we're
is
all right.
is say, okay, guys, if I've missed it already, give us a country. Start off with a country. In
country.
Africa, obviously, not South America or France or
Not the
in
world.
Europe
France
or
is a
whatnot.
country,
Yes,
I
it is a country. There we go.
Somebody wants
For those
croissants.
of you who want to book, there's Wandering Thru's website popped up there now in the chat. So anyway, first country in is the first country we talk about. Go, now, fast.
That'd be a good one.
Hopefully it'll be a good one. Hopefully it's one of the ones we like, Brenty.
Yes.
'Cause
Well, we
there's-
like most.
Well, most of Africa. is
Most of
actually pretty
Africa.
good, yeah. Exactly.
Amazing.
Let's
Although
choose the one country that none of us have been to. That would be quite funny.
that would
Oh,
be
that would be
great.
hilarious.
Mr. Zero, Kenya.
Oh, we've all been there.
Okay, we got Tanzania, Botswana, Kenya, Tanzania. Okay, so we'll
The one
start.
we do, East Africa. Kenya,
Yes.
Tanzania.
Yeah.
Kenya,
It's-
Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Or maybe you can do those a bit separate.
I feel like Kenya,
Yeah,
Tanzania,
they-
and Uganda, and Rwanda.
They can be separated. Let's do Kenya, Tanzania together.
And go.
Okay, go for it, Tristan.
What do you want me to say?
Okay,
Brenty?
so obviously now we're going to chat about Kenya. Obviously, Kenya is a country that is about half the size. No, I'm not going to. It is about half the size of Texas, though.
Yes.
There's a little interesting fact for you.
It is. We learnt a lot about Kenya, didn't we?
Yes.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously there's quite a few different safari areas available in Kenya.
Well, I think the thing about Kenya is that, and Tanzania to a degree as well, is unfortunately both countries have been labelled as migration-only countries, and the migration is the most amazing thing. It is, but both countries have masses of things to offer besides the migration, from green season safaris to very different
conservation
reserves with some incredible species, birding particularly.
I know I might get shouted at here, but
Ooh,
the
what
Mara
are you gonna
isn't my favorite game reserve in Kenya.
No, mine neither.
Yours, Ali?
Well, Ali's been to
My
the Mara.
Kenya.
Oh, it's Mara. Oh, okay.
No,
Sorry.
I'll leave it open. I want to go to Olpejeta. That's the place
Okay.
where I want to go.
Yeah.
In Kenya.
For me, Aberdares is beautiful.
Stunning.
That's a beautiful
And you can go
part
fishing.
And you
Yeah.
can go fishing.
Also, for those that don't know, Tristan actually lived in Kenya for a while, so he knows some of those areas quite a bit from working.
Meru is beautiful
Up there.
as well. Samburu, harsh.
I haven't
but-
been to Samburu yet.
Yeah, Samburu is
but
quite
the
harsh.
cultural stuff in
but it's
Samburu.
very, very cool. And then I think probably my favorite, just from a point of view that aesthetically is so pleasing, is Amboseli. I mean,
Okay, I thought you were
you
going
can
to
go
go.
Savo.
Savo is my favorite. I love
West or
Savo.
east?
Oh, as far west as possible.
Yeah, the Chulus in those areas
Yeah.
are beautiful.
So, I mean, for me, the Mara is magnificent, and so are a lot of the other parks.
Yeah.
But the only place for me in Kenya where I felt, geez, this is properly wild. And I did
Yeah.
not see another car. And, I mean, it wasn't the best game viewing, but for me, Savo was just incredible.
But the thing about Savo is, I think that, the problem is that a lot of people will say it's not the greatest game viewing if you are up in the far north.
It is good.
But it is actually okay. There is a lot going on there. Did you see striped hyena while you were
Do
there?
you wanna
We
come
didn't
and
see
touch?
we didn't see striped hyena. We saw genet, leopard, wild dog,
Oh, how I see
lots of
Garlic.
ellies, good
Oh, the
buffalo.
ellies are great. Buff are great.
I think we counted like 150 dick and 10Ks.
Yes.
The
They are a lot
Oh,
of
they
them.
are great.
Everywhere. Super cute little things, though.
Yeah, they are.
I find it a very underrated part of the world.
It is.
I think a lot of people kind of, obviously the lure of the Mara and even Amboseli.
Sally.
Well, I think the Mara and Arboseli is like when you Google, those are the first two things that come up that everybody wants to do. And if you've seen The Lion King, the Masai Mara and the Serengeti to an extent is
Yeah,
it
same
is the
story.
typical thing that when people imagine they're coming to Africa, you imagine that. And then when you start doing a little bit more research, you're like, oh, but I like the look of this.
Well, I think the
like
thing
look
is
of
that
this.
Tanzania and Kenya offer a really good opportunity to do not only that migration, but you can really mix it up with the parks that we're talking about.
Ocean Beach.
And then beach, which is the next thing that I was going to say. Is, I mean, the coastline of East Africa is spectacular. It is beautiful, beautiful. So there's a really nice opportunity to do a very varied trip through East Africa. You can have, like we said, mountainous areas, so like Aberdares.
And also, I haven't
Natron.
got there yet, but Natron I have.
Naivasha? Have you been there?
Yeah, Naivasha I've been to. But I was just saying, places like the Matthews Range, I haven't got there yet, but I'd really like to get there.
And then there's like Turkana, which is also completely
Completely
different.
But that also for the cultural stuff.
Yeah, I
it's
mean, that's-
pretty incredible. Also Samburu for that kind of stuff and the
Yeah.
singing wells and all that. It's just such a wonderful country and there are so many
But
things
that's what
that
I'm
go
saying, is that
just way
there's so
beyond
much
the Mara.
diversity. And
Exactly.
then if you go into Tanzania, you've got Manyara, you've got Crater, you've got...
Well, see, again, none of my favorites.
Ruaha.
And I've been to all
Ruaha,
of
You,
them.
you Salou. I
Yes,
mean,
your heart
I'm a
is in
Salou
Salou.
boy. I'm a Salou boy. I lived in the Salou.
rightly so. You lived there,
Yes,
and it is a beautiful part of the world.
If you didn't like it, we'd be worried.
Yes. I mean, for me, the diversity in the Salou itself,
Yeah.
as a standalone, is just incredible.
For
I
sure.
mean, the concession, we went from 1,800 meters down to 400 meters.
Just
We had red
crazy.
colobus monkeys and then
Oh.
wild dogs hunting in
That was
sand rivers.
Crazy. Great birds as well.
No, the one
Yes,
place that I
and
want to go
golden
to is Ruaha. I did my entire thesis on the leopards of Ruaha. Highest density, just like as the Sabi-San in terms of carnivores, and then the 10% of the world's lion population is estimated to live there. And so there are so many big cats there, but it's sort of like an underrated area. And
Tsetse flies.
Tsetse flies.
yes, I know
Those
why.
guys
Those are
Thank
the
you.
They
Salou.
bite.
And Katavi.
Katavi's also got
But,
plenty. though.
But I mean, you can just do like Taylor. You have a little tsetse fly cloth and you just beat yourself throughout the
You
safari.
can't drive and beat yourself. That is, however,
Have
the
you not
problem.
seen Taylor do it?
She is great at it.
She has a little
Where did she
handkerchief
get
in
Tsetse
In the
Zambia.
lower Zambezi.
Lower Zambezi.
She
yes.
was the only one getting attacked, but she had this little cloth and she was
What
just
color
like
was the
beating-
cloth?
Pink. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
you can't have blue or black.
I was hoping it was blue because
Yes.
then I was going to mock her.
No.
But
Did you
also,
hear about our TV show in Tanzania that we once did?
yes,
So we went to Tanzania to do this, and in the Serengeti there's tsetsis,
plenty.
and the uniform we were given was dark navy blue.
So tsetse flies are apparently
It was
attracted to certain
delightful.
colors more than others. Navy blue being one of them.
And if you
Maybe
really
black,
don't like a person, if you collect some sand that's had buffalo urine on it, and
Oh,
just put that near
no.
them. I've done that to people
Yes.
before.
Well, that does not surprise me
That
at
is
all.
so mean.
It's a very irritating person. But yes, and also the one other thing about tsetse flies is actually if you just keep still,
Yes.
the more you move,
The more you move, the more they get you.
the more they get you. They're attracted
Yeah.
to movement. their favorite smell in the world is buffalo urine
And colour.
and blue and black.
And that's just purely from a mating perspective.
Yes.
But they're actually not that bad. I mean, like,
No, they're
I mean, there are places where I think they are a nightmare and that you don't really want to deal with them.
there's a place that is absolutely spectacular, and
Bar the titties.
I absolutely adore that place. But at certain times of year, it is almost
Well,
impossible
there
to
are
move
certain
in
places that.
northern Kafui
Yeah.
in Zambia.
Yeah. We also
Well, I
had
mean,
a
there we
lot
go,
of them
that's-
in the Congo. Remember, we had quite a few tsetsis in the Congo when we
But because that's that mosaics.
in
you
the
know, it's-
river.
Yeah, because I mean, well, we've both been to.
We've all been
yeah,
there, yeah.
but I mean, I didn't find the tetsis nearly as bad as the faru and the
No, they
and the
weren't. They
filaria
weren't
flies.
too bad, but
Those
they
filaria
were
flies
around.
and those little sand.
Knuckle biters.
Little sand fleas as well.
yeah,
They
those-
were-
Hey, let's not talk about bugs.
Yes.
Okay, let's keep on going back to Kenya and Tanzania. I think we've covered Kenya quite well.
Yeah, I mean, Kenya.
Unless anyone's got any particular questions about Kenya, we'd love to hear them. I'll keep.
I will say one
checking.
thing about Kenya and Tanzania is that people should really keep an eye open. Well, not an eye open, but really explore the option of doing green season safaris in both those countries.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
find the Masai Mara and particularly an incredibly beautiful part of the world, even in the green season. And I actually prefer it. I mean, you
It's
will know
quieter
as well.
from a
It's
vehicle.
quieter.
It's quieter from a vehicle perspective. Most of the animals are still there. Obviously, you don't get the migration, which is what most people want to see. But there's still so much diversity within that
And you can
system.
get nice and stuck in the mud. Hey,
And you can
Christy?
get stuck in the mud. As,
Guys,
as
both of you,
us
I've
have.
got photographic evidence for the both of you.
So stuck in the mud. Birding is good.
Yeah,
you know,
birding
it's
is
like-
excellent.
It's a really good place to go in the green season, and pretty. Like,
It's very
beautiful.
pretty.
yeah, you know, and those storms, especially if you can time it just at the end of maybe the long rains or short rains, you know, those storms
Yeah.
that build up
Yeah.
every afternoon is just
And from a photography point of view, it's
unbelievable.
spectacular.
Stunning, because then you get this very dramatic skies, and the sky just takes this purple hue. It's just a very weird color, isn't
Well,
it?
I think it depends obviously where you are in the Mara, but especially up in that Mara triangle, when you get that
beautiful.
crazy sky that gets, you know, it's kind of these storm clouds, excuse me, and then that sun, and then you got those olololos that go blue, and then the green of the grass.
Beautiful.
It's just such a spectacular kind of vista that you look out to, and really interesting colors that you get as backgrounds to your photographs. So it's a very, very cool place to explore. And I mean, the Serengeti, for me, if you talking migration and things like that, the other thing that the Serengeti's got when the migration isn't there is all those koppies
Yes.
with those rocky outcrops, and that is absolutely spectacular from a photographic point of view. I mean, who doesn't love lions and leopards and cheetah sitting on rocks?
That's when you hear
Exactly.
the Lion King
It's
song
as good
theme
as it
going
gets.
behind it.
Exactly. So
I don't.
Normal people.
you don't like the Lion King?
No, not
no.
really.
Okay,
Exactly.
let's not get
I
dramatic.
remember we were, I can't remember what age it was when The Lion King came out, but little.
Yeah.
We were
I don't
little.
know.
Yes.
Guys,
Little.
let's not bring age
Well, we were
into
smaller
this.
than
Let's
you
not.
were.
Yes, you were smaller than me, but I was
Younger. Younger is the word we're looking
and we
for.
were on our way somewhere, I think to Bots or whatnot, and we stopped off with family friends in Joburg, and all the
watched
kids
The
got
Lion
put Lion King. Apparently, I made it very unpleasant for the other children. I was like, that doesn't happen. There's no mandrills in Kenya. Meerkats don't live there.
Actually, talking about a mandrill, sorry, I know this is jumping the gun, but did you see there was one scene in Odzala?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
how
did.
did you see that
Amazing.
footage?
I
That was
did.
very
Very cool. Yeah.
Because the closest, I know they're in... no,
So
I
that
can't
is the
remember.
Congo, the middle of the African rainforest, if you guys were wondering.
The Gabonese park next door.
Lango?
Mkebe.
Makebe, that's it.
But
The one that's on the border.
speaking of Congo, I think, I don't know, I actually haven't been watching. I've been naughty. Sorry, them. But we'll get to Congo just now. Let's just finish up. Let's finish up East
Yeah,
Africa.
let's
Yes.
keep it.
Before, sorry, them. Don't worry about what I said about Congo.
We get distracted. So Tanzania, or should we cover Rwanda and Uganda side of things?
Well, I mean, I feel like the thing about East Africa is it is very diverse, and so we've mostly covered savanna safari destinations. Pretty much every one that we've named so far is a savanna-based ecosystem. Whereas when you start going to Uganda and Rwanda, you've got a very
You're on the edge.
They're on the edge, and so you get this mosaic where you get these highland forests and then you get the savannas. And so, I mean, there are options to do savannah-based trips into
Yeah.
Uganda and Rwanda, Akagera, Queen Elizabeth, Murchison Falls. But I think the big draw card for both those countries is the gorillas, the mountain gorilla specifically. And so, that's where I think most people are looking to go to those countries. And actually, a lot of people are going there for gorillas and then popping into Kenya and Tanzania for the sort of more traditional safari, if you want to call it that.
I mean, from a logistics perspective, they are now, or just at the beginning of last year, they started with the flights directly from the Masai Mara to either Entebbe or Kigali, just because everybody connects. That kind of stuff. So if it's a once in a lifetime experience and you want to get it all together, then obviously they realize it's a very nice circuit to do all around.
Exactly. And I mean, the timing of the kind of migration in Kenya works quite well with the dry season in Rwanda for the gorillas. So, that works nicely, as well as Akagera. Akagera in Rwanda is also dry season at the same time. So you've got quite a nice variety, and it's not too wet. And obviously the gorilla trekking is just such a different thing to the vehicle-based safari that you're going to do pretty much at every other reserve that you're going to go to.
Now, if you do ever go on a gorilla safari, and you are not the fittest person, just because you want to see the biggest group, do not go beyond. Now, I'll tell a story from my dad, who was very, very upset. They were going up to the Susa group, which is the same group I went to see when we went up there. But they are the furthest, longest, hardest walk.
Fit people go there.
Fit people go there. And a lady who was not fit ended up having to be carried down the mountain by a homemade like sled. And it took what should have taken a 2-hour serious uphill walk, ended up taking 4, and then you lose out. So if you really want to experience and do it properly, and if you're not the fittest, there are gorilla groups that are
much
easy walks of there. So the Susa group are the most famous and whatnot, and a lot of people try go to them, but if you're not fit, don't do it.
And there are
also you get asked your level of fitness, and you get paired up in groups just before you go. So a lot of the times they try to put you in groups of people that are sort of the similar fitness levels, and then this is where it gets tricky, because there's always a debate. Do I go Uganda because the gorilla permits are cheaper, or do I go Rwanda because apparently the hike is easier but the permits are double the price? So it's a little bit of both on both sides. Apparently in the Rwanda one, I haven't done it, but maybe you can help us here, that you walk a lot before you get to the volcano and then you start going uphill.
In Rwanda.
Whereas they say in Uganda you just start going up straight away.
Well, we just went.
You just did Rwanda.
So we went to the Susa group, which is our right closest to sort of the what's the lake called again? Kivu. So towards the Kivu side. So we drove for an hour and a half from the gorilla center, where most of the walks start the gorilla center. So we drove for an hour and a half, and then we walked through some groundnut plantations.
Exactly.
And then you walked
there before you
another kilometer or two, and then we literally went vertical for 2-3 k's.
So it's just one of those things, obviously, and if you've got any injuries or anything, it's very important not to, as you were saying, trying to portray yourself that you're fitter than what you actually are, because
there is options for everyone. I mean,
there is, and that's
it's not like you won't see a gorilla if you are not fit. It's just that it's not good to lie about it.
It is, because what you end up doing is
you get put in the wrong group,
and you end up affecting all the other people there, and people can get very, very angry.
But then ultimately it's also an experience that everybody wants to enjoy, so
including yourself.
Exactly.
And if you are taking camera equipment, I highly recommend hiring a porter. If you're taking a lot of camera equipment, it is a tough walk, and if you're there in the rainy season, it can be very slippery. And also those helping to employ people from out of there, it is worthwhile. Hire a porter.
Exactly.
I hired a porter. Didn't really need one, but we still hired a porter.
Well, it's always important to try and help wherever you can, and rather keep these people employed and motivated to preserve a species, which goes for any species anywhere.
Exactly.
And as you were saying as well, it's like, you need your hands. You slip, you slide.
You pull yourself off when you're tired.
Exactly. So a porter is useful.
It's very, very useful. Those guys are super fit. It's funny.
It's crazy. They do it every day.
Yes.
So you would expect them to be.
Yeah, well, and then I think those areas for people like you guys that are big birders.
Yes.
Although funny enough, Volcanoes has not got a huge
Nice.
species count. It's only got 180
I think
species.
what was the best I got? I think was Reichenbach sunbird. It wasn't, and it's something I've seen before.
There's some really cool birds that have come back in because they've expanded the range of that
Yes.
forest and they're starting to get.
My
a lot
dad
of
was involved in
interesting-
that, the whole development of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're starting to see some really interesting birds coming back again, which is really nice. So yeah, but it's only 180 species.
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah. It's
And I feel
very-
like we also haven't mentioned the
Compared to the-
chimps that are in
Yes.
both areas. Also,
Nyungu.
like, well, both. You've got them in Kibale in Uganda, and then you've got them in Nyungu, which a lot of people don't know about. But then
and it's not a long drive from the gorillas.
yeah, it's
No,
it's
quick, actually.
and well, we actually forgot to mention there is a place in Tanzania also, Rubondo Island, where you can go and trek for chimps, and it's
Very
it's an
Mahali.
island. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. So if you like big apes, I would say either one of those countries is probably a great place.
And
to
there's
be.
also all the smaller ones. There's golden monkey. There's
At the golden
Oh.
monkeys, you can actually pay for an experience to go look at the golden
yeah, and
monkeys.
which are very cool as well,
and the
so-
prices are not like a gorilla.
yeah,
No.
they're,
not at
they're
all.
so pretty.
They're like golden monkey prices.
Yes,
They're small.
the small monkey,
Small monkey,
big
small
monkeys.
price.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. That's a good way to remember it.
I was actually quite shocked. I was looking into Akagera, and I didn't realize how many bird species there are.
Akagera is great.
501.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Pretty impressive. I mean, that's for
That's
those
a
of
lot
you
of
that know
birds.
the Lowveld system or where we are in operating. I mean, that's more than we get by a long way.
Sorry, I just need to deal with this one quickly. Sinak, I'm not sure where you heard I support canned hunting. That is absolute nonsense. So let's not go spreading rumours like that.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
I just wanted to
Fair enough.
nip that one in the bud before it went any further.
But actually, that ties into our whole conversation. Is that as people who travel a lot and people who advise people to travel and go with people, anything to do with that kind of stuff is a
We
big
stay away.
no.
Yes.
Like, you don't
We
petting of animals.
we actually have a very strong, and I think from all of us, and Brent is funny because we've had so many debates. Remember that one?
we disagree on certain things, but
But on
on,
that
the,
one, we all
on the
agree.
principles, we're,
Yeah.
we're the
and
same.
then for that kind of stuff, anything that involves you touching a wild animal, you walking with a wild animal, you riding a wild animal,
You're
we don't
supporting
do.
canned hunting.
I mean, besides
degree.
not even getting on that, we just as obviously conservation is the core of what we do, and we love the wilderness, and as such we want to preserve it. Those are things that we do not agree with, and we don't sell it to our guests. So we've had people inquire about them in the past. So obviously we try to explain why we don't sell them, and then it's everybody's choice because you can't force people to
Not
do
to
anything. But we do not deal with
So I
that
think
kind of stuff.
that's come up because of an article I shared, possibly, and I try keep as neutral as possible with a lot of this stuff, and to a degree, sustainable use of animals, plants, etc. in certain parts of Africa is the only way to preserve the greater ecosystem. How it's done and whatnot is a very complicated thing, and not for tonight because we're talking fun and safari.
Yes, we all want to go
It
traveling.
is a long conversation and a complicated one.
It is, and we
So
will
let's
we
not
will
derail.
cover it. Again, that'll be on one of the sort of conservation drives that we're going to be launching with the private drives. So yes, we will discuss that stuff. But it is a lot more complicated and
Yeah.
than people think. It's not just as simple as shoot a poacher. My personal opinion is if you've shot a poacher, you've already lost the battle. Now
Yes.
we'll stop. Otherwise,
Yes.
I'm going to get going.
Alrighty. What's your favorite destination, Brent?
Okay, my favorite destination. Oh,
Tough one.
there's too many.
I can't choose.
But we do have one that we've all been to and we all love, and you guys have made a video
Yes.
about your trip there. So, Vimpy, if possible, can we have a look at the Okavango Delta video? morning to us. Hello, welcome back. Yes, so the Okavango is an area we all know and love.
Yes.
Deeply.
That's Ali's favourite.
Ali's favourite. What about mine?
Probably, yeah. I think the Okavango might be one of... I think I'm divided between the Okavango and probably a place like Manapools. I think those two are in the lead for me. I just love those areas. I love sort of when you go there, you just feel like you're in a wild, remote place where you get this true feeling that you're surrounded by nothing but wildlife, and you know you're there, and then you walk out and you're just like, oh, there's a lion there, there's something happening here, and I just love it. And I grew up close to the water, so, and swimming and everything, and the Okavango has got this magnificent thing that in the dry season, so in July in the winter time, the water level starts rising because the water comes from Angola and all those areas. It takes about 6 months when it rains there to get to the delta. And then you have these incredible areas where everything is dry, and then the water just sort of, and then you get all these channels. Oh, it's beautiful. And
I must be honest, I wouldn't mind being in the delta now.
Oh, that must be amazing.
This year?
Fishing's good, hasn't it?
Well, I mean, basically it's been a very dry couple of years in the delta. So places like Cylinder Spillway.
Still dry.
No.
Started flowing.
Got water now. So, like, really crazy places that have been struggling with water have all sort of filled up this year. So it's been a really good flood year for the delta, which just makes, I mean, spectacular for going down those channels and seeing things like lions crossing channels. And
I'm getting so much FOMO from all our friends that I've got up there, and they're
They live
exploring
up
all
there,
these
yes.
areas, and I'm like, oh, I should be there
But again,
right now.
Botswana is another completely,
Different. Yeah, there's
different and diverse.
Yeah.
the Okavango
very
is
much.
not even my favorite part of that.
Where's your favorite part?
It's the Linyanti Kwando system.
That is pretty.
That area is pretty.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
And
there's just
you've
something
got
about that
got
water.
enough of the Okavango-ish,
Yeah.
but for me, you've got those massive Aeroloba forests.
Yeah.
Those
Oh,
big,
they are beautiful.
along there with massive
camel
torchwoods
thorns, yeah.
and
Those are
jackalberries.
beautiful.
I must be honest. I am a huge fan of the drier parts of.
Yeah, you like
Botswana.
Naipans and the
Naipan's
Makari pans.
beautiful.
But that's from a photographic point of
Yeah.
view. Like I just find that those areas are just.
But
the
like
most
talking
unbelievable
about
places.
underrated destinations, so we're actually promoting, and you've actually got a trip going there next year if anyone's interested. Is an itinerary that combines the Okavango and the Naipan. So you go from the delta to the desert in the middle, but in the dry season, in the
Wet
in the
season.
wet season.
Thank you guys.
The wet
During the
season
zebra
is beautiful.
zebra
because
migration.
yeah, there's the longest migration in terms of how much animals walk, or the zebras walk. It's actually in Botswana. It's not even in Kenya or in Tanzania. So these animals
And
just
there's
go
more
from
zebras
the.
that migrates than in East Africa, isn't it? The number-wise, I think it is as well.
And they go from the center part of Botswana to the Chobe River, and then they come back down, and it's just like.
But so there's actually like 4. They
Yeah, but
go
like
off in
that,
different.
but that is like the main one that they do that's been mostly studied. And
That's a
it's-
very cool thing. And then there's the meerkats. There's
The
lots to
meerkats
do
are so cool.
in Botswana as well. I mean, obviously Chobe River on the top. So you've
Yeah.
got
So
you
it's
can
a-
do boat, you can do desert, and you can do delta, which is.
But I think that for me, generally, it's like the Savo. You will find me where there are the least people.
yes,
True.
but Botswana you can get
can
that.
get it-
Yeah.
That's the
yeah.
nice thing. I mean, some of those concessions there are massive, and I mean you
So yeah, I was lucky enough to spend a lot of my teenage years in my early 20s in that part of the world, and the concessions that I lived in. I mean, the smallest one was 156,000 hectares.
Oh, what a
Which is-
horrible.
I mean, that's the thing,
upbringing.
is
Next door to Kwara.
No, I know. Yeah. Oh, I spent quite
Kwai's
a lot of
also a
time.
nice area. I mean, it's
And Kwai is also quite an interesting design because it's also a community-run area. So,
development trust.
yeah. So it's quite interesting. But also, guys, like we're missing out the Chobe River in the
Well,
north.
we're getting there. We're still moving north.
Oh, sorry, I got
So,
excited.
so you've got Kwai, or you've got the Okavango. Now the Okavango in itself, you've got completely different from the Jau Flats
God. Yeah.
in the west.
So you
that,
can-
and a lot of people are asking, it was a lechwe.
Yeah.
Was the animal you're saying?
Yeah.
every
That
now
looks
and
like
then.
an impala, but it's
beautiful male,
fluffier.
Yes, yeah.
But
That's-
it,
yeah, I
and
mean,
they've got, like,
I think the thing is that's the thing about Botswana is you can start in the south, which is the Kalahari system.
Yes,
Then you go
way
into
down
Central
south,
Kalahari.
which is one of my favorites as
Oh.
well.
Central
yeah.
Kalahari is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But when we talk about remote places, That's when you go
Kalahari.
to Central Kalahari, you take your own fuel, your own water.
Well, that is
your
it.
own
Hang on a
everything.
second. That is if you're doing a self-drive.
Yeah,
If you want to
that's it.
go, there are still camps that offer a
Yes,
fully
there's
guided
Deception
experience.
Valley. There's
Yeah, there's what's the new one? Danaka.
Dinaka.
Dinaka. I know that spot well.
Yeah.
So we used to play around there as teenagers when there were no camps there.
Cool.
We
That
used to
must
just
have
go
been
and
something.
camp wherever we wanted, basically, in those days.
It's a crazy place. And you know what I like about it? The thing that I like about Botswana is that you get such a diversity from an animal point of view. So you've got, like we were saying, these desert-adapted creatures like bat-eared foxes and oryx and springbok. And then you start going north. And as you travel north in the country, so you start to get to the delta when you then start to see lechwe and
Water,
puku,
Situtunga.
Situtunga.
Well, Puku, only on the Puku Flats.
Yes, but well, I mean, you know what I mean.
Yes,
As it gets wetter, you go up, and then eventually up to the Chobe River, where it's just, chaos when it comes to elephants and
Oh,
the
that
likes.
area is
So,
beautiful. Yeah. For elephant lovers, I reckon Chobe
and then
is quite a
birding
cool
throughout
place.
is great because again, you get desert birds all the way up into the more kind of wetland areas, and so
And so you move from the Central Kalahari, and again, these systems are sort of interconnected, as Tristan was talking
All
about,
of
with the migration of the zebras. And one of the most amazing things is in the last 10 years is elephants moving into areas where they haven't been seen in 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
And that's because Botswana's done such a successful job with their elephant population. They have the largest elephant population in Africa by a long way.
Well, it's a crazy thing. I mean, we talk about elephants here in South Africa, and I mean, obviously we have the Greater Kruger, which is a big area, and we see a lot of elephants. It's not like we don't see elephants; we see lots, and that's only
And nothing.
20,000, and I mean they over 320,000. I mean, it's
100 between 125 and 155 this year.
this year, but they move between
move
Zimbabwe, Zambia,
Zambia.
Angola, even to a degree, and then in. So I mean, it's the kind of population density there is just so much bigger than what we even kind of can relate to.
No, it's a
you know?
wonderful country. I mean, I think one of our favorite parts when we've done the self-drive is that you go down the main road, like this highway, and then you have to stop because there's an elephant crossing, a national highway, and then it just goes into the other side, and you're like,
Which is also like Savo, same story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I was actually talking to someone recently, and part of that, because I don't think this year is going to be the case, but 2 years, no, from a climatic perspective, guys. About 2 years ago, they had about 3,000 elephant spillover from Botswana. So Botswana is about, I'm going to call
It's
it a
the size
round
of
thing.
Texas.
Yeah, but it's roundish in shape.
Yeah. What's a straight? Okay. Okay. We'll call it round.
Okay, let's
We'll call it
imagine like
round.
it's like this. Then Zimbabwe sits here, and then the Kalahari is sort of in the middle here, and then it stretches up like this. And then they had a lot of elephants spill over into Wangi.
Yeah.
Because
Wangi
Wangi now
inherited a
is a
huge
national park that elephants would normally migrate from there onto there to then go for water and stuff. But Wangi built a bunch of
Permanent
artificial water
The
holes.
Pridelands Lions.
Ooh,
He's close. He must be quite close to the camp.
I love it
He's
that
coming
we're
this
here in
way.
Lions.
That's cool. Very nice.
Well, we know what we're looking for in the morning.
Yes.
Lions. Yeah, so they've all gone to there and to Wangi because now that they've got the permanent water, well, I mean, they've had it for a couple of decades, but with the permanent water holes, animals don't have to walk as far. So also, if you like elephants, Wangi, I think it's...
Well, I mean, that's going into a whole new country, which
Yes,
is
yes,
another
we're
big country
getting
that
there.
we'll get to
We're
just now.
getting
Sorry, I get
Yeah.
excited. I can't.
So, I mean, we're talking about that, and for me, one of the most fascinating things is particularly in the back ends of Chobe and up onto that Kondo Linyanti system, where you've got that crossover. So, I mean, brown hyena dens, spotted
That's
hyena
foxes.
dens, wild dog dens, cheetah coalitions, all within the same concession. So it's incredible.
But like going back to what we were saying, even within the Okavango itself, it's funny because a lot of people. So you can have your typical safari experience where you will have the big five drives, and that's what you're after, and the good photographic stuff. And if you go further south in the delta, let's say, but in a good rainy season, if you go far north into the delta, then you get a full-on water experience. So there are no game drives. You mainly do everything on Makoro or boats or walks, just because the cars cannot get anywhere. So it's also like
Unless I'm
even
driving.
with,
No, I'm joking.
I mean, I feel like even you will drown a car then.
I have.
You see?
The Nyanti channel gets deep at times.
Yes.
But up there, it's no joke, guys.
No, I see there's quite a lot of comments about this, so we're going to cover it. There's those elephant deaths.
Yes.
that are
Northern
happening in
Bots.
Saronga, an area I know very well, on the eastern side of the Panhandle, in a concession that is called.
NG11.
Yes, thank you. Well done, Annie. Jeez, I didn't expect you to know the NG.
She was reading about it today. That's
Oh,
Not today, a couple of days ago.
NG14 was where I used to hang out.
really.
Yeah. And NG20.
NGs are the names of the concessions
Yes.
in Botswana, if you were wondering.
Well, those deaths, I mean, it's
Oh, they're still dying.
tragic, but
Well, the last thing that I saw was by
They-
one of my Botswana friends that they shared that they've taken samples from all of the elephants that have died, and they've sent it to different labs in South Africa, Namibia,
No, South Africa, Namibia,
Botswana, obviously.
and Germany.
Okay, I knew there was another one, and then because they don't believe it's poaching because all the elephants have got their tusks.
I
Obviously,
agree.
the tusks are being removed once they find the animals to avoid any temptation that might be around.
which is a common practice.
So,
it's-
I mean, when we used to find dead elephants, now, just to sort of get everyone's mind around this, is not actually the government, Botswana government released, everyone was saying it's 360, it's not 240.
Yeah, they said
it's
there was less than
less
what
than
people thought.
And just to get around, so 240 elephants in a population. I actually had the figures here somewhere, but I mean, you're looking at, I think, 0.003% of the population. So on the grand scheme of things, although it is very tragic, when populations get big like that and you're having spillover into other countries,
then you start to see.
you start to see natural diseases and pathogens and stuff affect, and that's nature's way of saying, whoa, we got too many elephants, they're absolutely smashing the bush, because it's not anthrax. They had such good rains, and normally when you have those big die-outs like that, it's normally anthrax in Botswana. There we go, my dad is correcting us. NG as Ngamiland is the concession, so it falls within the province of Ngamiland. And then the concessions,
We were so
CH
close.
concessions, are for Chobe district.
That's right.
Here we go.
Good to know.
So it is a tiny percentage of the population. As sad as it is, it doesn't really affect or interfere with the health of the elephant population in Botswana.
I mean,
In the greater scheme of things.
They'll have that number of births in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, natural mortalities from old age is in its thousands
Yeah.
every year.
Oh, but it's good
Or
that
lions
they're
or-
they're paying attention and they're investigating. It is an oddity, so people are paying attention, which is good.
Fair enough. Which is actually an interesting one because obviously Botswana, there's an area that's famous for lions hunting
Elephants.
elephants. Exactly.
And that area, my favorite area in Botswana, they used to do that there, yes.
Nice.
Well, the other one
Savuti,
for us
yeah.
mortals that did not grow up in Botswana, it's Savuti.
Yes.
And
Savuti is
then
part of
where
the
they got
same system.
Yeah,
very,
it's a very. I think it's a marsh pride that got that
I
they
don't know if the
became.
Marsh Pride still does it, but I mean, it's,
Well, I was there in
You saw a
October
pride
about
there.
2 years ago in October, and then when we were there last year, they were fairly well behaved. The lions. We didn't find any any elephant kills.
but they were on an elephant. Remember?
Yeah, they were actually, but
But
I mean,
that
we didn't
elephant,
see it
they
happen.
weren't sure if it
But in
was-
instead of, I think it was 3 or 4 nights, then we had lions hunting elephants around the camp every night. And they obviously don't go for the big cows or the big bulls. They tend to go for younger bulls that are trying their independence out, and they seem to like a little bit further away, or babies that are
Struggling.
injured, sick, or
But I think also the thing about Savuti in the last couple of years has been very dry. So I mean, the channel hasn't flowed. The marsh is grassland. It's not a marsh. And so generally when you get harsh conditions, you typically see weakness in certain individuals. And so
Number of
sometimes
species.
lions, will target. And as you were talking about, anthrax is something that does happen
Regularly in Bots.
regularly in Bots. And when,
Especially in the
when
dry
we were there,
years.
remember there was 2 or 3 carcasses that we found that were dead, and they had
Not
come and
open,
tested
nothing,
them.
yeah.
And so the lions, I suppose, as things like that happen, it becomes weaker individuals, much easier to bring down weaker things.
Exactly.
but it is still quite a sight. I mean, I think
The sound is
it's horrible.
horrific.
it's
yeah.
horrible.
And we tend to humanize elephants a lot because we see them with babies and moms and the matriarchs.
Well,
and
they're so close to us in so many ways.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
when you see the lions, you're like, oh, that's amazing, and then you're like, no, run, baby, run. So it's never, but it's a beautiful area also from a photographic perspective, and I mean there are all sorts of camps for all sorts of budgets. It is.
Well, I think
it
that's
is
the
an
thing
amazing
about
place.
Botswana is that from a photographic perspective, pretty much everywhere has got
Oh, yeah.
something that you can really photograph, so whether it be the elephants in the Chobe, which is, the Chobe has become so popular because of the elephants swimming.
Yeah.
And because they move
Boat cruises.
Yeah, they basically
but it's
cross
cool.
from the bank onto Sidulu Island, which is...
was a site of a few near wars between
Yes,
Namibia
exactly.
and Botswana.
Exactly.
And literally, this is an island that goes completely underwater.
Yes.
But we've
But
got
there's a flag on it.
My favorite
And
is
we've
the
got to
Botswanan
fight for it
flag
for
now.
6 months
That's
a
my
year.
favorite.
There's a flag,
A
and then all of
giant
us,
flag.
and then the Zambezi floods, and the Linyanti comes down, and
Yeah.
chop.
Humans, we
Exactly.
are another breed.
But I mean, so you got the photographing of those and the skimmers and the things that come into that area. Then you obviously got in the Delta, a lot of the photographs that people want there is the cats crossing the
Crossing the
channels,
channels.
elephants as well with palms,
water lilies
and water lilies and all that nonsense. And then you go obviously into the Kalahari areas, and then it's
beautiful.
the big flats,
The
landscapes,
baobabs,
and
the
that
salt pan.
the incredible
The
light
white
you get. You get
elephants.
those like pink kind of coloured elephants
Hues,
because
yeah.
they get this white sand on them, and then late in the afternoon or early morning, with the sunrise sunset, you get this really epic coloration on them. So it's I think it's so diverse, Botswana.
Exactly.
I mean, but every country that we're talking about,
It is.
not a one.
I don't think we're going to
wonder.
get through half the countries
No,
we thought we were
we
going
will
to
not.
tonight.
So Congo will be.
We'll have to do it again.
Congo is something that is like a one place visit. Really, there's not.
at the moment.
At the
At the
moment.
moment.
We're talking from a tourism perspective. We're not talking about like the land of the great white wanderer. It's just like
Yes.
you're not going to be David Livingstone.
Well, I'll try.
Well, yes, you will try. But I see
I'm
Congo is on now. But
There we go.
the Congo is really
Congo
the one
behind us.
reserve.
Otherwise, we're going to keep talking about Botswana. Thank you, VM, for
Yeah.
forcing us to change.
Okay. I like it when
Congo is the
people
one
tell us what to
reserve.
do.
It's odds.
That's a forest
Odzala.
elephant, which is a different species. It's been
But this
classified
place
now.
is also crazy. If you're into trees,
Birds.
birds,
Forest, big
forest,
apes, big mammals.
gorillas, elephants, and buffalo, then it's a pretty.
So these are
spectacular
not the
place.
same gorillas that you would get in Uganda and
No.
Rwanda. They are smaller. They're called the Western lowland gorillas, but they're also incredibly cool because they go up trees, which
Yep.
mountain
Far more
gorillas are
active.
too heavy to do.
Or the silverbacks.
Yes,
Well, okay,
but
fair enough.
these guys behave more like chimps. They're a lot
Yeah,
more
they're super
active, a lot
interesting.
more busy. Like
I
they.
don't think they're like chimps, though. I've spent a fair bit of time with them.
Well, I'm not saying that they are chimps.
No, I
Can
just
we
gonna
call them
behave-
an in-between, guys?
They're in
Let's
between.
keep it-
They're way less than mountain gorillas.
Yeah.
Much less.
They have much larger home ranges than
Yeah.
mountain gorillas. Your average mountain gorilla home range is tiny. It's like 500 hectares.
Well, it's because of the food and.
So much food.
Yes,
All that wild asparagus and wild garlic and stuff that they just slot.
No, but
Exactly.
the Congo also, I think for us when we went there, it's
Another remote place.
It is a very
another
remote
remote place, and then you feel like you are in the middle of nowhere. But what we enjoyed is there's a particularly one company that is doing pretty much this type of wilderness experience in the Congo, which is called the Odzala Discovery Camps, and they do an outstanding job. And I think one of the reasons why they were favorites is that their camp where you go to view the gorillas was actually built in a specific place because that is where the lead primatologist works, and that's where the research camp is. So it wasn't, the camp and then the primatologist came around. She was there. That was the place that she was going to carry on doing her research in the Congo after Ebola and now during COVID. And then, it was this really amazing combination and joint efforts of trying to show people. And she actually comes to you, like when you arrive in the camp, and she speaks to you about the gorillas and your expectations and everything else. And it was just fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is also with the Congo and those particular camps that you need to understand that it's 3 different camps that you stay at when you're there.
And
So
3 very different
different
ecosystems.
ecosystems. So it's a mosaic basically.
Yeah.
So it's savanna mixed with forest, and what you get within these areas is you get these things called bays, which are basically clearings within the forest where water is coming through, and you're finding elephants, red river hogs, giant forest hogs,
bongo.
Gorillas.
Sitatunga.
Bongos are not real.
Well, we saw tracks with them. But
I
anyway.
tracked them. I did not see them either when I was
They're
in
not real.
Odzala.
They're
there.
unicorns.
But anyway, so I mean, you've got 3 different camps, and so you stay at the one camp, which is predominantly going to be a walking camp, where you're going to. Well, in fact, they're all walking camps, but
Yeah.
predominantly walking for gorillas. There is what you're going to be doing, and it's your first camp that you go to, and then you end up going to the one that's on the bay, which for me was my favorite by far.
That was stunning because you just have this massive
It's just
area, open area in
beautiful.
front of you, surrounded by forest, and then you just see herds of buffalo and elephants and
But
everything
for
else
me, it
coming.
was also like the flocks of African greys and green pigeons that come
That's
over. And,
amazing.
these bays attract all these birds, and then you get the white-thighed
Bruce's are green
hornbills. And
pigeons, yes. there.
Yes.
Bruce's. Yes.
And then, I mean, like, just crazy birding. And so, for me, Lango was just super
Yeah,
beautiful.
Lango Camp was beautiful.
But then in
just so
Mboko
different.
was the boat stuff, which was just insane
Yes,
from
then
the
you get
forest
to
elephant
explore
point of view.
the-
'Cause
the rivers.
in that clip there, you see the aliens in the river, and they basically put their trunk down and blow the bubbles to, push
the
everything
minerals
up.
up.
And
It is amazing to see that. We had an epic sighting of a bull doing that in the Zala, just
so cool.
Oh, it's amazing.
mining.
Exactly, they're mining.
They're
That's
mining.
what they're doing. So, for me, that was also very special. And funny enough, it was a very cool story. So we went to this river, and we hadn't seen elephants at all. We had seen, but in the dark. It wasn't great. Everything was like dark and nighttime. And we went onto this river, and we just wanted to see these ellies, and we weren't really having much luck. And
Wasn't it the last morning as
It
well?
was the last afternoon. We decided we were just going to turn the boat off and drift downstream, just to enjoy
See what
See if you
happens.
bump some
Well,
pels.
no,
or-
it's just pels or
They're also not real.
I think on the boat there, I think I saw 9 different pels.
I don't wanna
in
talk
You
to
guys
Odzala.
went far up on that.
Yeah, we didn't go far.
I
But
don't
even
wanna
on that
talk
Mboko stretch there,
And
I think we saw 2.
we just drifted down this thing, and
I'm giving you the
then
death
these ellies just started. They obviously were hearing the boat engine and moving before we were seeing them, and they started to just stay in the river. And you just that silent drift with the sounds of the Congo rainforest, and then these elephants, and then like drifting up to them, and they're unbelievable. It's one of those
beautiful.
experiences that I'll never forget. I think that's a
And I mean, we were quite a rowdy group. Like we weren't quiet. Like,
but we weren't rowdy. I mean, we were all
well, yeah, not rowdies maybe, but like, I mean, we weren't like very quiet people. And
No,
for
that's
once,
true.
like, we just drifted down, and then all this magic around us.
You
it was
managed to
incredible.
be quiet.
I mean, I was hoping to
she
see
was
an
actually
elephant.
not even the loudest of the group.
Yeah.
She was
How's
quite
that?
quiet, which is amazing.
I was so excited to be in the rainforest, but those are camps that you do mostly walking. You cannot get places really in the rainforest. It's too thick. So
It's also the damage to the environment. Where we drive is a lot of grassland areas, and it's a lot of places where it's easier to navigate. I mean,
Yeah,
going through the
there is
rainforest, you're
just-
going to just destroy not only trees and shrubs, but insects,
You don't even know what's
frogs,
around there.
chameleons. So it's really, to drive through the forest is not ideal. Walking is much better. But there's some really cool things. You can do a night drive from the one camp, which was super cool actually. And you go and see these crazy.
Did you see the hyenas?
No, we didn't see them. We heard them. But you get obviously pottos,
Yes.
animaliers,
Funny little creatures.
these are
various
things that
species
look
of
like little monkeys.
bush babies.
Bush babies.
So
There's
animalia
many
is like a
different-
flying squirrel, basically.
Yes.
It's
so cool.
Yeah.
Lord Derbies is generally the
That's-
most common
Yeah.
one you see. The pottos are weird,
Very weird creature.
slow.
It's almost like a sloth.
And a
but
slow
not.
loris as well.
Yeah,
Oh, we
loris,
also saw loris.
Yeah.
And then obviously pangolins.
Yes, the tree pangolins, yeah.
The tree pangolins are there. So, the night drive is also quite cool. It's a really, I think for me, Odzala is not a first time safari go destination. And I say that with all due respect, because I feel like if you're really going to enjoy Odzala, it's because you've been to multiple other places in Africa that are very normal safari related. So like a Kenya or a Tanzania or a Botswana or South Africa. And this is just something so far removed from that I think once you've had your fill of lions and leopards, and it's not about only seeing animals, and it's about the destination and what you're going
And
to
being there.
find in yourself in that destination, then Odzala is the place for you.
A very introspective safari. Though.
It is. It's hugely. I mean, you feel kind of.
I can't wait to say I'm going to take these guys to Gabon one of these days.
I will die.
And we'll do that. But I think we're going to move a little bit closer to home, just north of our border,
Yes.
and Zimbabwe. And we do have a little video for you. So there we go, a little bit closer to home, and you didn't even do Vic Falls.
I am so itchy. Like, my feet, I'm just like, take
We're
me.
supposed to be going there soon, aren't we?
Well, you know, fingers crossed we will be going there in October.
I had to
To
cancel the trip.
Manapols and Wangi, which are the two camps, which, I mean, that video doesn't do Zimbabwe.
No, there's
Also,
a lot
like,
more. The
there are-
Matopos, the Eastern Highlands.
Pamushana,
Oh, yeah, down south here, Ghana Reserve.
yeah.
I think we should
Lake
go camping in
Kariba.
Ghana Reserve.
Oh, there are so many more
That's
places,
also
but
another place altogether.
I love Zimbabwe. There's something about it also that I just love.
You know what my thing about Zimbabwe is that I love it from a point of view that I think it is amazing, and my favorite lodge-based kind of experience has been Pamushana, just from a
Really?
from an exclusivity kind of size. I just loved Pamushana, also from a complete diversity point of view.
Yeah.
Really crazy place.
So for those who don't know, Pamushana is actually quite close to South
near the
Africa.
border,
It's
yeah.
just on the other side of the border in this, what's it called, Buffalo Range Conservancy.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's
I think it's
part of
Buffalo.
Malilangwe Trust.
Malilangwe Trust.
and
Buffalo
it's-
Range was
yeah.
part of that.
Yeah. And
But it's part
from
of the
my point of view,
Singita
is
group.
it's just like it's got this incredible lake with these cliffs, and then you've got these crazy birds and interactions that take place on those cliffs. So black eagles throwing baboons off the cliffs,
Cliffs, yeah.
which is crazy. So you can go on the boat, go tiger fishing if you really want
Yes.
to, and you get things like black rhinos coming and drinking while you tiger fishing. Then you go into those massive Mapani forests. Then you go into open grassland. Then you've got baobabs. It's just, there's so much there to do. And then the way that the lodge has been built, I don't know, it's just one of my absolute favorite destinations. I would love to go back there and spend more time. I think the time that I did spend there was just scratching the surface
yeah.
of how incredible that place is. Bushman paintings also there. You know, you've got so much. And so what makes me sad about Zimbabwe is that it has so much to offer, and so many people ignore it based off of its political system, which
It's better, much better
is
now.
better, but actually does not affect most tourists.
Yeah.
In fact, it won't affect tourists because
And
these camps are so well set up.
And so remote from
Yeah.
where but I feel like that is of any country. I mean, in general, when there is any political issue of sorts, it happens in the capital city or in main areas, whereas all these camps and all these areas we're talking about, they're just so far, and the infrastructure is just there to keep people
I mean,
safe.
you don't actually really fly to Harare.
No,
You mostly
I mean,
fly into Vic
Vic
Falls.
Falls, and then
you
from
can,
Vic Falls.
you can if it's cheaper for you to fly, or if it's more convenient. But as you say, pretty much everybody flies from Vic
Vic
Falls,
Falls, yeah.
Exactly.
and then they go wherever it is that they want to go.
The other thing that I will say about Zimbabwe is that it's, out of the African countries, it's got probably the one of, I mean, it's arguable, but it's the most well-trained guides.
Very good guides.
Guides are incredibly good in
Outstanding.
Zimbabwe. The rigors to become a professional guide in Zimbabwe is very, very strict and difficult, and the guides from there are generally very good. So Zimbabwe is a great place from that point of view. And then also just spectacular in terms of its
it's
scenery,
beautiful.
diverse again.
But I mean, just going back to those two things that we showed on the clip, I mean, we've got the two main parks that people know about, which are Wangi, which is the desert that I was telling you guys about earlier that the elephants migrate to. And then there's, of course, Manapols, that is pretty much walking heaven if you like doing walking safaris or photography,
It is.
approaches on foot. It's just
And Vic
incredible.
Falls.
Big Falls, well, but Big Falls, you know, Zambia and Zim fight about it.
Well, you could say
Which-
the same minor
which-
pools and lower Zambezi.
Oh, Taylor and I have this fight often.
But to be fair, I mean, Vic Falls you can access and you go to either country.
It's not a
Yeah,
problem.
true.
You mean you literally walk across
Whereas
a bridge.
Lower Zambezi and Manapool, you cannot just take a boat
Yes,
across.
no, exactly.
And then, I mean, Lake Kariba, I've spent quite a bit of time down there
Kariba,
on
yeah.
both sides, Zambia and Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Lake Kariba's cool.
It's beautiful and quite underrated, and very, very few tourists going there at the moment. But I mean, yeah, if anyone's interested in a
Well, I mean,
Zimbabwe
there's
trip,
very few,
remember
Oh, we
WanderingThru.
love it.
Very few tourists going anywhere right now.
Yes, true.
No,
but
but the good thing is, I mean, for everyone that's feeling a little bit adventurous, let's call it that way, I mean, should things go normal again this year, and I mean, most lodges in any destination of the world have offered like really flexible terms if you want to book to travel this year, because of course, you know, now this year's everything is a little bit trickier. But there are some really good offers out there,
Yeah, particularly
hugely
for
discounted
Zim,
rates.
For Zim particularly.
Yeah.
No, for everywhere. South Africa, everywhere.
listen to the boss.
I know what I'm talking about.
I know you.
She looks at her emails, we don't.
That's true. I just saw some stuff on Zim and I was like, that's crazy.
No, and then I mean, but that is, obviously attached to a lot of uncertainty, so it's understandable that a lot of people don't want to.
Ulla wants to know, is the trip to Wangi Monopole still possible? Email Ali. I'm sure she'll get back to
So
you.
the
Yeah,
one
we-
for this year,
Not for
Well,
this
we're
year,
not doing the shared private guided one, but if you're interested in a private guided one just for you and, you know, a
Your
private
group.
guide, or, you know, just you yourself, then it is possible. But the group that we were going to do as a scheduled pre-departure, we're not going ahead with that group anymore.
unfortunately not.
Sad.
I'm very sad.
Sad.
I think we need to develop a Tristan and Brent Zimbabwe. So Tristan, we can go fishing the whole way through and do safari in between.
Well, Botswana,
Fishing
Zimbabwe.
trip.
You know what worries me about that, Brenty? Is that I feel like you and I will get lost and not come back.
Yeah, we might not.
Exactly. We'll get stuck into fishing and safaring and birding and... then
That's
it will
fine. Can
just-
I keep Shloa while you guys are away?
You can look after
Okay.
the child.
Okay, good. I mean, us girls,
Yeah, you got to stick together.
No.
Exactly.
I'll be very lonely.
Well, there, Thelma's brought up a really great park that is actually very little known, Chisarera,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is absolutely stunning above, actually above on the escarpment looking down towards Lake Kariba. Quite underutilized, but you can only camp there. It's pretty rough and ready, Chisarera.
Yeah.
There's now Boomy Hills.
Yep,
also.
Boomy Hills.
Yeah, but that is part of Lake Kariba as well.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
Rhino
that's what I'm saying. It's
Safari.
that whole, you know,
It's that
Kariba's an
whole-
interesting place. It's obviously it's a
Man-made
huge lake.
ecosystem,
Yeah,
so it's-
man-made, but the surrounding areas are nice. And I've heard a lot of good things actually lately. That things are starting to bounce back a little bit in that area. So
Yeah.
you know, worth maybe checking out again.
Yeah, I definitely think we should look at a houseboat safari.
You know,
There's some fantastic
this is
There
houseboats.
are
this is the
incredible
problem with
ones.
Africa.
Yeah, it's just so-
I mean, it
I mean,
goes
and
on
we
and
really
on and
haven't
on.
even touched on the Indian Ocean Islands or anything. We're gonna have to do it again, guys, because we are running out of time here. Thanks so much, Steve.
I mean, we
but
didn't
yeah,
even
so
go into like Chad and
Chad and
we were talking about Chinko.
Chinko in
Guys,
Central
South
African
Africa.
Republic.
We haven't even
South
We
touched
haven't
South
even
Africa,
talked about where we're sitting right now.
which is also a great safari
Oh, destination,
destination.
yes.
Well, that's probably, I would say, for first-time safari goers,
Probably the best.
one
Probably
of
the best.
yeah.
And we're looking at
And for
some
big cat viewing, I would
Yeah.
say.
definitely for leopards, and we're looking at some interesting new areas. Ali has been looking at very close to where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, we're looking at, you know, all things we can do, and also some SADC or South African
Yes,
specials.
for-
But we'll,
Yeah, for our South African residents and South African citizens, we are going to be running some
yeah,
really
we are
cool
looking
South
into
African
them,
specials.
but we just want to wait and see what actually happens because
So at the moment, no
a bit
one's
up and
allowed
down.
to travel between provinces,
Yeah.
but once inter.
Inter.
Yeah.
So at the
Intra
moment
is what we
yes,
have now.
yes. Intra provincial travel is ready. We've got some quite cool options for South Africans wanting to get out of Johannesburg or even out of Cape Town, get into the bush. It's a great time to be in the bush. One of our favorite times to be in the bush.
Well, from now until
Till
October,
October, we're
November,
smiling.
is going to be
The cameras are clicking away. Brian and Viam are swinging big lenses at elephants and lions and hyenas. It's a great time of the year to be in the
is.
bush. And actually, I think because otherwise we're going to keep going forever and ever.
Probably true.
We can chat quickly about seasons. I think a lot of people heard us whack out green season, which we all know about, which people might not. So yeah, well, I mean,
it's green season is actually it's always debatable because a lot of people are always like, when am I going to see more, or when am I going to see big cats if this is my first time safari. So in southern Africa, basically it works that I'm going to say, the weather has been crazy, but roughly from May to October, let's put it that way, is the dry season. But it's our winter time, hence why we're wearing big jackets and this kind of
I'm
stuff.
even wearing shoes.
But it's actually
Well-
not too cold tonight, by the
no,
way.
it's nice, quite pleasant.
For normal people like me.
But hang on, I mean, basically the definition of a green season is the rainy season in that particular destination, which generally does not
Yes, but I'm also
invite.
talking when.
No, I know that, but I understand that, and I'm just saying. But generally, a green season is a wet period.
Good for birders.
Within that
Migrant
system.
birds are here.
And peak seasons generally are drier, and the reason for that is that dry seasons are normally better for game viewing due to the fact that animals are normally being pulled
there's
towards
also less
water.
vegetation to go
Yeah.
around. But the plus side for anybody that wants to consider a solo safari, green season, there's no single supplement for the vast majority of places. Obviously, it depends on where you want to go, but the vast majority, not only do they offer reduced rates, in general, it's cheaper to travel in the green season, which is also beautiful if you want to photograph in that, because everything is green and there are baby animals and migratory bird species and all that kind of stuff, which is also Oh,
I mean,
it's
I
pretty
love
amazing.
I
But
love green season. That's
yeah,
adventure.
you are a green season supporter.
Yeah.
But there are certain camps and certain parks in certain areas that do not open for the green season just because of the amount of rain.
South Luangwa,
Mana
Lower
pools,
Zambezi,
Lower Zambezi.
they get flooded and it's impossible.
Yeah.
Basically.
Liz, August in South Africa is splendid.
Yes.
Wonderful. I think it might be my favorite month.
Really?
August, September in South Africa.
My thing about
Oh.
August is the wind.
Yeah.
I'm not a wind person. It doesn't affect the game viewing, and in fact, it's really the
Yes.
game viewing is good. But I just personally, I prefer late September, October
October.
into early November.
Oh.
And especially if there's no rain in November.
Last
that
year.
first 2 weeks of November is insane.
Last year, when we didn't get the rain until December,
Yeah.
November was just ridiculous. I mean, at that point, there's really so little water around.
But that is also a
becomes
guess, guys.
crazy.
That changes year to year, so you
Yeah,
can't really. I
exactly.
mean,
Well, it does.
some Novembers you've been like covered and drenched in water by
Yes,
the
that
1st
is
of
also
November.
true.
That is very
Shamsung, green season, very wet and rainy? No. So what we consider very wet is very different. Obviously, Congo and the rainforest is slightly different.
rainforest.
But if you're talking about your traditional safari areas outside of East Africa, that's got 2 rainy seasons and that. But so South Africa, Botswana, Zambia,
Yeah,
Zimbabwe,
Southern Africa.
Mozambique, Namibia, you pretty much have wet and dry. And when we say wet, a high rainfall area, a high rainfall in this part of the world,
600 mils.
yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's what I'm
basically,
saying, like,
if you
super
come on
high.
safari,
It rains 30 days a year.
It
if you
shouldn't
work it
rain
out.
every day when you're doing a safari in a green season. You might get wet. You might not get wet, but it does not mean that it's going to rain for 4 days. I mean, it's not
I
that.
mean,
you know,
generally most of the green season areas are storm-based rather
Yeah.
than front-based.
That's
So
a good way of putting it.
storm-based is like it will rain for an hour, 2 hours, and then pass. And so most of the time in green season, I mean, you do get every now and then a front that comes through and it can rain. I mean, I guessed recently that when we went to Juma and we had 3
Yeah.
days of rain in a row, which is unusual for February, but.
But they were troopers, and then they wanted to come and see the migratory bird species.
But we
and then
we
they
had a
wanted
great
the-
birding.
And you guys ended up having lions and wild dogs and all
No,
sorts
we had
of
really
cool
cool
things.
sightings. I'm not saying that you don't get the sightings, but what I'm saying is that it's not. We typically don't get frontal
Yeah,
rain. We get storms.
And they come, they do their thing, and then they go.
Exactly. And to be honest, an African thunderstorm is quite something,
Spectacular.
especially in the bush. I don't know why. Like,
And when you're
I've
in a
seen
canvas tent and
I've
Yeah,
seen
and you're like, oh, is it gonna
thunderstorms in
rain?
other parts of the world, but here, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the sound of the insects
and everything, and the
else.
frogs and
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah, they're
So
very cool.
it's a nice time of the year I think to be.
I enjoy it.
I always enjoy green season. So yeah.
Now, guys, as I said, we're going to have to do another one of these because I don't think
Yes.
we've touched
No,
nearly
we're
all the
missing so
bases. And
messy.
We haven't even
And-
gotten into places like India and South America.
America, yeah.
Zambia. Oh,
Velma, yes, email Ali about Pantanal Jaguars. They do safaris to there.
Yes, I'm very jealous. Ali's going to be possibly spending a month there next
Yes.
year.
Malawi, we've just actually chatted about
Yeah,
Malawi, Ali and I, and a friend of mine. And
we're
Ali
adding
are
Malawi to our list.
Adding Malawi. So there's a lot of stuff we've still got to talk to. But of course, let's move to the right now. And that's this weekend happening. So I see there's been quite a lot of interest in a sunrise safari. So the only reason we haven't done a private sunrise safari is we just haven't got enough people on it. So I saw a grumpy lady or grumpy someone. I wanted to do a morning safari. You really want to do a morning safari if you're grumpy? No, I'm joking, of course. So yeah, get 5 people together. It's a minimum of 5, and we'll go out on a live safari. We love the mornings. We go out quite regularly
Yeah.
to
I
track,
love them.
etc.
Well, we're talking that we're going to go out in the morning
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
so-
exactly. And so Saturday is afternoon's fully booked, but Ali's got some spots on Sunday
Sunday
afternoon. And hopefully those lions will be around, and hyenas, and maybe pixie pan leopard and her 2 cubs.
I don't think she exists.
I think Ali's got the luck. So chatting about that, have a look. For those of you who might have missed the live drive promo, here it is now. Our expert private guide team has over 40 years combined African bush experience in multiple countries. Isn't that gorgeous? Nice lion silhouette. We're just trying to get some nice ID shots. and start figuring out exactly who this pride is. Lots of hyena action. This is absolutely incredible. Lion coming racing in. This is absolutely epic. What are you doing? You're a little boy. I'm not scared of you. Yeah. You back up. You back up. Female cheetah got chased by a lion. I know she's coming this way, but it's a really difficult area to drive. So we're going to go for a walk. So the elephants have interrupted their morning hunt. The 5 lionesses have just put this leopard up a tree. We can't see if it's a male or female. With only 10 people per vehicle, we guarantee an intimate, privately guided experience. Painted Dog TV and our expert guiding team can't wait to immerse you in Africa in the world's first exclusive privately guided virtual safari. So, welcome back, guys. I see there's quite a few questions about the app. The app is very close, and we're hoping Monday or Tuesday next week we will keep you updated. Quite a few questions there. Sunrise Safari starts at 6 a.m. Central African time. I know you can early. I'm not sure what time that is. Depends where you are in the world. And the afternoon safari starts at 4 p.m. Central African time, and you can email Charles. I see people want to do some morning safaris. Email Charles or email info@paintedDog.tv and we'll get back to you. As for a schedule, we're not 100% sure yet. We've got to work it out. It's ever changing depending on who's available, who's around.
I'll be next weekend.
Tristan will definitely be on next weekend. We're not
on Friday, aren't I?
And that's a private safari for Marcy and what do they call the leopard ladies?
The leopard ladies.
The leopard ladies have booked a Friday private safari with Tristan. But Tristan will also be on next weekend, and I will be, and hopefully so will Ali. If you fill us up,
I'm not next week.
Oh no, you're away next weekend because Tristan's busy this Sunday.
Yes, my brother is coming.
Your brother is coming, so it'll be Brent and Tristan next weekend. Brent and Ali this weekend.
That's it.
Okay, perfect. There we go. So Charles is popping on there all the information you need to know.
And I think the sunrise safaris will get, as the year goes
it's going to get earlier and
easier for everybody, I think.
Daylight savings and all that type of stuff.
So.
Now, of course, I see quite a few people asking about when the next episode of Pridens is coming out. Not this Sunday, the Sunday after it, but we've got an extra special episode, a long episode, 20 minutes or so, Thunder, on Lapalala. Wilderness in the Waterberg, so a completely different area, so it'd be quite nice to see there. We thoroughly loved being up there, and we will be going back. However, the Lapalala episodes are not going to be as frequent because we don't go there as often. So this is it's going to be a sort of big special on Lapalala this Sunday, so exciting stuff. And yeah, a big thank you to, of course, everyone who makes this possible, our patrons, those of you who've helped us on Super Chat here, and of course to the Stenbach family, Leadwood Big Game Estate, Eco Training, Pridens Conservancy, and Lead Lenser for making sure we don't get eaten by lions. with our big torches. Thank you very much, everyone, and I will hopefully be seeing some of you on a sunrise safari tomorrow morning.